Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Toonkind at 12 FPS. This is Timeless Ballroom. I am Oatmeal, and I will be playing the professor today. And with me is my lovely friend.
Howdy, hi, I am Whirlwind Gale, otherwise known as Gale, and I am going to be playing somewhere else. Or someone else. Well, somewhere and someone and some when. Anyway,
True. The professor's ellipsis is in good repair these days. But since it was kind of um, damaged for a while, things did get a bit wonky, settings out of whack, things maybe slightly miscalibrated that may have been overlooked. Um, so,
maybe some things that got intentionally overtuned to make up for
perhaps so. Perhaps so.
past
To make up for something
past
else, miss.
something else that wasn't there, yeah.
Indeed, indeed. He takes off and he has something in the wrong setting, which results in him being put in the wrong setting as it comes and lands unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
So he checks with an intelligence roll of 13. He remembers to check the conditions outside. There's a little readout that says, like, okay, the air isn't toxic and stuff. It's
Air
safe.
isn't toxic, only concern is that there's a slight bit of rain.
So, he doesn't check anything else, but he does go outside, and I think that is when I rolled perception, which is he got a 9, unless you'd like me to re-roll.
You're welcome to re-roll if you like,
Mm-hmm.
or we can roll with a 9.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what you want.
I'll re-roll. Oh, and for context, this is
Yeah.
us kind of doing a take two after we got sidetracked.
Yeah, we got very sidetracked.
Well, that's a nat 20.
Okay. From a 9 to a nat 20.
Yeah, dude.
Let's absolutely go. So, Professor. Oh boy. All right, Oatmeal, would you like to send our title card in chat so I can,
oh,
I guess, reference it?
oh, yes. Sorry, I thought, one of us had already done that. I will do that. Right, it's this one. Okay. Yep, that's the title card.
Right. So, Professor, your ellipsis has landed somewhere a bit odd. You have seemingly landed on some sort of balcony, and particularly a balcony that is very high up and has no rail. It is not OSHA compliant. You have landed on this balcony, or perhaps this ledge, in front of the face of a massive clock. Uh, and as you open the door to the ellipsis, and step out, you have to be careful because one, it is raining. Two, the ground underfoot is made of metal and stone, which means it's raining, it's slippery.
Mm-hmm.
Three, the ellipsis door opens essentially facing towards the outer edge.
Mm.
And so, be very careful. Do not slip and fall. Because as you look out over what this balcony is looking over, out over a massive, you're not, even with a nat 20, you're not sure exactly what you're looking at.
Mm.
It could be a city. It very well could be a city, but all of it clicks and moves together and ticks and turns at the same time in perfect sync and harmony, like a perfect, well-oiled machine. And in the distance, you see what are definitely city lights, but there is some kind of separation between wherever you are and whatever that is. because those city lights are across a expanse of black that paints a thick line across the horizon. And as you look around, the light is coming from that clock face behind you, but it is also coming from the city machine, whatever it is below you, from dozens of windows and glass panels and blinky lights and every which way of other things. And it is coming from above you, but not from any sun. Not from any stars either. As far as you can tell, this place has none of those. Instead, suspended from some infinitely high up ceiling that you cannot see, there are lights, light bulbs hanging from copper wires that take the place of stars among gears that take the form of clouds. And this cool, gentle rain is falling, filling the air with the scent of wet stone and wet metal. And there is this beautiful musical ticking and clicking and whirring of all of that carefully orchestrated clockwork. And there is, I say it is musical because there is a faint music to it, a steady rhythm. Um, and is there anything in particular the professor is trying to see?
Oh,
Because you got a nat 20. I can give you more than just fancy word picture if there is something more you want.
yeah. I guess he'd, look particularly at the clock tower he seems to be on.
Mm-hmm. Looking for anything in particular, or
Um, I don't know, clues about, maybe, who made it, if it has any other purposes, what time it's displaying.
mm-hmm. So the clock tower you are standing in front of, the face of it is interesting because the hands seem frozen, and that is strange because there are two gateways or doorways to either side of it through which you can see that everything inside is moving smoothly. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it, but it is solidly frozen at the time it has selected, uh, which is 12 o'clock. And um, you know that it's 12 o'clock because whatever place this is, they still use Roman numerals. So you can tell that that's 12, or at the very least, it is what you know as 12. For all you know, they use these for a different meaning here, but as far as you can tell, it is 12. You can guess that whoever inhabits this place may be humanoid, because standing to either side of the platform are two sculptures, uh, both of which have, uh, both of which contain two figures. Uh, and in both figures have light bulbs in the place of their heads. Very large light bulbs nonetheless. And the two figures seem to be locked in a dance, like a waltz. As far as you can tell, they are completely inanimate, but the lights do glow.
Um, how, can he tell how far down, the, I guess, bottom of the clock tower is?
So looking over the edge of the clock tower, here's the funny thing. You are in a clock tower. This is a spire of whatever the hell this thing is. But this spire is one smaller piece of the grander puzzle, and it is a very small piece. because as you look down and down and down and down, and there are miles and miles and miles of space below you,
Mm.
you see the way that the mechanics of this thing blend into the rest of the city. How you can practically trace a line from some of the gears that you can see on the outside of the clock tower that connect with other parts of this clockwork city.
Mm.
So, in a sense, Clock Tower does not have a bottom. It simply disappears into the rest of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
He.
buzz buzz.
Yep, that's. I don't think that's anything I should have to be concerned about. No, it is not. Um. Uh. Yeah, he's kind of. I think he's probably holding on to the ellipsis pretty firmly with one hand as he like looks around and, uh, sort of bends to look over the edge. Um, and he does mutter to himself, like, all right, dimension door isn't going to suffice for that. Because that's only 500 feet,
Hmm.
which is usually quite long, but this is, yeah. Um,
You can't dimension door into effectively either a bottomless pit or a spike pit.
yeah, yeah. Um,
There are a lot of pointy bits and gears that you get the impression would be very unpleasant to smush into.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, he will, I think, close the ellipsis door and just kind of edge his way around it so that he's not standing at the edge,
Hmm.
and is closer to the clock face. Um,
Hmm.
Probably looks around, doesn't see any people. So he's going
Nope.
to go in uh, one of those openings in the clock face and see if there's a way down from the inside, as there sometimes
Hmm.
is.
Hmm. So going inside, there is a way down
Mm.
in that there are, you see that the two archways connect a sort of lofted platform, both of which, and like on either side of that platform, there are two grand staircases that sort of spiral down the sides
Mm.
of the um, tower. Uh, I don't know, I don't think Professor ever saw this thing, but within ink space,
Mm.
there was something very similar where you had two grand staircases that spiraled around each other without ever touching.
Mm.
It's that.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and they lead to the bottom of the clock tower. And inside, like I said, lots of gears,
Mm.
lots of complex machinery, and it is large. It Dear God, you have no idea how on earth they got the resources to build something of this scale.
Oh
Just
yeah.
one of those gears would probably take like an entire mine's years worth of metals to make.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whatever this is, the amount of material needed to make it alone is intimidating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's kind of perplexed, just kind of looking around. Um, it does partially remind him of Mechanus, um,
Mhm.
the plane of uh,
I think order.
I think Order, yeah, um, because it has a very clockwork aesthetic, but this is
Hmm.
a bit like even a bit nicer, a bit more ornate. It's
Yeah, it's got a very Art Deco style to it.
yeah. Yeah. Whereas Mechanus, while very pretty, is a little more functional than aesthetic
Yeah,
generally.
it's very utilitarian.
Yeah. Yeah. Um he surmises from the stairs that there are probably, or, well, are or were people here at some point. Um,
Hmm.
uh, but yeah, he's uh, going to go down the stairs. And I think while he's going, he'll just call out, like, hello?
Let's see. Retro, are you anywhere nearby? Let's flip a coin. Oh, gosh darn it. 1 second. Oh, okay. Mic's back on. I was being tossed my new phone.
Nice.
So I finally have a functioning phone again. Yay.
Yay.
Um, right. What was I doing?
Flipping a
Oh,
coin to
right.
see.
Roll D20. How close are you? 8. You're very far away.
Ah,
Um, there is not. Hmm. Roll me insight, I think.
sure. Huh.
This
Well,
is
that's going to
kind
be
of
a
an insight
total
vibe.
of 8.
Okay. As far as you can tell, there's no response. Something in the air shifts a little, but as far as you can tell, there is no response. There is no one to hear you besides the tower
Sure.
and everything connected to it.
Does he get any sort of vibes from this place
With what we talked about.
with what we talked about?
Yeah, so funny you should ask that, because the further in he goes, the worse it gets.
Oh boy.
Actually, honestly, I'd probably have you roll a con save.
Cool. I love doing those with the professor. He has such a great con and he always rolls so poorly. Alright, well, that's not half bad. Con save. Alright. Okay, not terrible, but that is a 14.
Okay, I will say that is definitely enough to not be incapacitated, but you definitely feel it. There is something very, very layered about the time of this place. You, Professor, you're a time czar. You know time. This is, your wheelhouse. This is something you're familiar with. There is something about this place where all of time seems to be layered upon itself so thickly that it ceases to matter. And you get the impression that that's why the clock was frozen outside, is because it doesn't matter what time it is, because it is every time.
Yeah.
And because of that, it is simultaneously no time at all. This could be any when in the universe.
Yeah, that's kind of a lot. Um, Even though it winds, as you said, sort of comes around to being nothing at all, it's so
Hmm.
much. But he does, I think, as it sort of gets more intense, like, slow a little bit on the stairs and, doesn't stop, but just sort of like, taking stock, like, okay, that's interesting. Um, just kind of like looking around for any obvious source, doesn't see any, just like, nope, it's just the place. Um,
That is just how this place works.
yep. Uh,
It's You know what? It's probably a lot like a really weird atmospheric pressure change.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, he probably he probably just like stops for a moment and like shakes his head and then keeps going uh like when there's a sort of like weird pressure in your ear.
Mhm. Dude has to pop his ears,
Yeah.
has to force a yawn.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But yeah, that but it's interesting and he's curious. He's not sure. He thinks maybe there's a reason the ellipsis brought him here, because sometimes that happens, but it could also just be a mistake, and he ended up somewhere that just happens to be very interesting. Um, but he's certainly not going to leave before, learning something, so on he goes.
Hmm. Hmm. I don't think he could ever reach the bottom of this thing.
Ah. Hmm.
But I do know that there are landings at certain points on the stairs.
Okay.
So, why don't you tell me what sort of thing you think would catch the professor's eye?
Hmm. Alright, I'm gonna look back at the pictures you sent me. I know they're not all present, but just for an idea.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, no, that's a good call.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think he would. Um, for something, I think uh, a sort of slight change of like something looking slightly more uh, steampunk than strictly Art Deco clockwork. Something maybe a little more uh, utilitarian looking, or something a little more purposeful might catch his attention. Something that looks like work is done here. This is a functional thing, not a pretty thing.
mhm, mhm,
Would grab his attention. Everything
mhm,
here seems to be mechanical, but this is more, I don't know, capital M mechanical.
mhm. This is mechanical and functional rather than mechanical and elegant.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's flip a coin. Can we roll a D2?
Mm-hmm.
Roll D2. Okay. So, Professor, as you are heading down the stairs, you pass these landings that have more of those archways, and some of them lead into long, open hallways with many potential exits
Mm-hmm.
inside. But one of them, instead, as you pass it, you are hit with the smell of paper and old
Mm.
books and ink.
Mm.
And you hear the sort of whirring sound of an active printer.
Mm.
Um,
I gotta ask, is it
and
like a printing press printer or like a slightly more modern printer?
uh, I don't know what a printing press would sound like.
Oh,
Um,
a lot of like, well, probably less whir and more like clunk.
it's definitely more of a whir than a clunk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, as you catch these sensations, you stop in front of a one of these archways. And this one actually, surprisingly, has doors, which none of
Mm.
them have had yet.
Oh,
This
yeah.
one has two, it has a set of glass double doors, uh, with sort of a stained glass setting into it,
Mm.
um, of like the pattern looks like a gear
Mm.
with 12 spokes
Mm-hmm.
with an hourglass in the middle of it.
Hmm. Cool. Very cool. Well, that's the door. He's just going to let himself in.
Fair enough. He hasn't seen anyone yet to knock for.
Nope.
All right. And as he enters, roll me perception.
Yeah. Okay, that is. 21.
Okay. So as he enters, this space is dimly lit. You don't know where the light was coming from
Mm.
inside the tower, but it had this steady, consistent ambient lighting that was this sort of warm, golden hour, orange marmalade color.
Mm-hmm.
This, it's still the shades of the golden hour, but it is later. It
Mm.
is dim, sort of warm, orangey red lighting
Mm.
that casts very long, very deep shadows. Um, and as you walk through, you find yourself in a sort of library. Or at the very least, you think it might be a library. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard to tell because there are elements of it that are library esque. Certainly, there are a fuck ton of books.
Mm.
There are a metric boatload of books,
Mm-hmm.
but all of these books are kind of Oatmeal, you've seen the Wicked movie?
Yes.
You know how they have their rotating bookshelves.
Yes.
They are caught up in mechanisms like that,
Mm.
but slightly smaller. Um,
Uh-huh.
and moved by sets of gears,
Mm.
um, like everything else in this goddamn place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as you watch, you see that there seems to be some kind of system where these gears, they will rotate and one of the books will slot into place and one of the machines will tip that book off of its shelf and it will get sort of laid on a what is it called? They use them in Minecraft. Lecterns.
Mm.
It gets laid open on a lectern and then um there is again, you don't know where it's coming from.
Mm.
There is a beam of that warm orangey gold sunlight that moves over the pages that slowly turn themselves like it's scanning it.
Mm. Mm.
And then when it gets to the last page, the book gets flipped shut, slotted back into place on its shelf, rotate, turn out the next book, repeat.
Mm. He'd like to go over there and try and just, look over the lectern, see if he can see the content of the books.
Sure thing. Any particular one or just the nearest one?
Uh, yeah, probably the nearest one.
Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, okay. So you walk over to one of the nearest lecterns, right as it drops one of the books out onto the page, and you get to read it, although it's roll me, I guess, an int check
Mm-hmm.
to see how fast you can keep up with it.
Sure. I have noted that he speed reads, but that is not exactly a D&D mechanic so much as it is flavor.
Yeah, no, no, no. And I will give you advantage on it if he does speed read.
Cool. Uh, well, I was good with the first number, so let's go with that. Intelligence, you said, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Int check. That is a 19. That's pretty good.
that's pretty good. Yeah, so as you are standing there, you read what you realize is one volume in a life story. And it's not a novel, it's not a biography, it's not a story or a script or anything of that nature. This reads more raw and real than any writing you have ever encountered. This is something ripped straight from somebody's perception of reality. And it tells you the story of, running off the top of my head, it tells you the story of a battle. Um, a battle for which the soldiers involved were excited, all except for the person whose life story this is. He was the only one who was too who was concerned about the fight because they were going up against a threat that the others thought they could overcome, but that he was worried about. And they everybody else was getting ready for the fight at the beginning of the day. You know, they ate their meal, et cetera, et cetera. He was too nervous to eat. And as the book flips through the pages, you get in vivid detail with very, very like near photorealistic illustrations, description of what happened at that battle. How there was no bloodshed, a sword was never drawn. How the enemy general, or not general, specifically, it calls him a captain. The enemy captain approached their leader and gave him one last chance to stand down. And the leader said no. And that's when the music started. Beautiful violin music that carried for miles and miles and miles and was continuing to carry even once the screaming started. As everyone in their group, everyone in their little army, everyone in their regiment was suddenly transformed. Their skin grew over with tree bark. Their feet burst through their shoes and ripped into the ground as roots. Their arms were yanked over their head and stretched out and became branches that burst with leaves and flowers and immediately began to bear fruit. And he was the only one left standing. And the captain looked him in the eye and asked if he surrendered. He turned and ran.
That's a cool story. The professor is very interested, but, well, the book does. You said it's a one volume out of a whole thing, so it probably stops and the book is gone by the, before you can get more of than that. Um, is there well, I don't know if there's a way for him to see this because it is being manipulated. Like, is there a title given or anything? On the outside of the book that he can see.
Yes. Does the professor speak Sylvan?
He doesn't.
Okay. Then on the title, like on the spine of that book and on several of the books next to it, there is a title. You can tell that it is in Sylvan. You can tell that it is a name. You cannot read what the name is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. He kind of takes a step back and looks around the place like, well, I don't think I'm in the Feywilds. This is not really that style. Um, and he tries to glance over the some of the other books to see if they're in the same language or if there are other languages represented here as well.
There is damn near every language he has ever heard of, and some he hasn't.
Nice.
But here's something interesting.
Mm.
If he goes to any of the other podiums,
Mm-hmm.
any of the other lecterns,
Yeah.
as it puts the book down,
Mm-hmm.
he can always read what's written.
Oh. Huh.
The titles are in millions of languages,
Mm-hmm.
some of which the professor might know have not been used in eons.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
But whenever the book is laid onto the lectern, it becomes legible. It becomes readable.
Mm. Yeah. His brows furrow, and he kind of glances like upwards towards where the ellipsis still is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of goes like, I don't think this is you. You haven't been able to do this in a long time. Hmm. So he's kind of perplexed, not sure what's going on, but he's pretty sure it's this place. Uh, Maybe some sort of magical feature of the podium. As a matter of fact, I think what he's going to do is he has a spell. He has Identify, and he would like to cast it on the podium. He does need to touch it for this to happen.
Okay. That should be fairly harmless.
Yep. So yeah, he touches probably the surface of the podium, but where the book isn't, to see if that
Mm-hmm.
reveals any.
All right, let me just look up how Identify works
Yeah,
so I know what to tell you.
I can put it in
I
the
always
roll
I
zone.
always forget how it works.
Hmm.
Found it. Okay. Found it on Wikidot. I love Wikidot.
Nice.
Okay. If it is a magic item or some other magic imbued object, you learn its properties and how to use them, whether it requires attunement to use and how many charges it has, how many, you learn how it spells. Okay. So, this is very much a magical item,
Mm.
but much like how, you thought you were standing in a clock tower and then you looked outside and you looked down
Mm.
and you saw that the clock tower disappeared into the rest of itself.
Mm-hmm.
As you touch this podium and you cast Identify on it, there is the immediate reaction of what the podium is.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But then it keeps going.
Mm.
And it keeps going.
Hmm.
And it keeps going. And I need you to roll me a wisdom save.
Sure. All right. Just checking that this hasn't changed. Nope, you just have a flat 11.
Okay. I think that is enough that it isn't going to do you damage.
Mm-hmm.
Professor, you do recoil.
Mm-hmm.
Because you recoil because if you don't, you are going to lose yourself to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you cast Identify on it and you learn that the podium is just something that is meant to hold the book in place, and it does make whatever is put on it readable to whoever is viewing the pages.
Mm-hmm.
But podium is one small piece of a very, very big puzzle. The podium is connected to the bookcases, which are not bookcases at all. They are bookcasings. They are individual wheels of life, of lifetimes worth of memories all collected together into one wheel for easy processing. And those wheels are connected to a system that brings them down somewhere else, some bigger, grander storage system that you could feel a little bit of the patterns and um, a bit of the patterns and, organizing system of even from standing here. But the reason they get put on the podiums is in and of itself connected to something greater, as those beams of light that you saw, those sunlight beams that are reading over the pages like a scanner, it is a scanner. And it is connected to whatever is making that printing sound, which you could feel is somewhere nearby. Um, and it just, all of it is very, very complex and very intricate and very interwoven with itself, and it goes on forever. There are so many pieces to this operation, and all of them are interwoven. And by identifying one piece of the puzzle, you have to be careful because it will try to identify all of it because it is all one machine.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. He's recoiled, and I think he just kind of presses his palm against his forehead, like, whew, okay. Ooh, okay. That's not supposed to happen. That doesn't usually happen. Alright. Um.
And identify just a piece.
um.
Can't have just one.
No. um. Yeah, he just kind of regards the podium like, all right, I'll be more careful about trying that again. Um, but it did sort of, uh, it did sort of lead to something that he could immediately investigate, which is the source of the printing noise. He would like to follow that sound and see if he can find it in person, not magically.
Yeah. And he can. It leads him deeper to another set of those glass double doors with that same symbol on them. Um, and he does notice that on these ones, it's a little easier to tell that not only is there because he's seen it twice, it's easier to tell. There is not only just the gear motif with the hourglass in the middle, there are also what look like sun rays around it. Um, and if he'd like, he can roll investigation, because I will say there is something fun and interesting about this glass.
Absolutely. Alright. Not a good roll, but he does have a decent modifier. Let's see what this gives us. Modifier. Uh-huh. Okay. That's a total of 13.
Okay. One moment. I need to find something. Um, um, Gale. Do 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 do. Sorry, just gotta find a specific thing.
Yeah, no problem.
From back when I was doing these studies. Tea labels. Tea. Where is it? God. Okay, we're in the domain of it. Where is the specific thing? Okay. I am having trouble finding it, but I will try to describe
Mm.
what you get with, you said a 13?
Yeah.
So there are, at first glance, there are what look like bubbles in the glass.
Mm.
And then there are what look like cracks in the glass.
Hmm.
And then you realize those are not bubbles and those are not cracks. Those are deliberately placed.
Mm.
Those are interconnected. Those are woven. Those are patterns, infinitely complex patterns of dots and lines all swirling together in and out of each other. In a manner very similar to this, but also this would be just like a teeny tiny piece of the glass.
Mm-hmm. Ah. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Ooh.
uh, Essentially, you realize this glass is inlaid with something.
Mm.
You don't know what that something is.
Yeah.
You don't have a way of reading it
Mm-hmm.
if it is something that can be read,
Yeah.
but you know that these patterns are intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, the interconnected circles does remind him slightly of. That's probably why he gets the language vibe, is because the interconnected circles do remind him somewhat of Phalagrayan.
It clicks a bell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he looks at that. He's investigating, but doesn't quite. He isn't quite able to figure it out. Um,
hmm
so he'll go through the doors. Uh,
hmm And inside you find something like this, although
mm,
admittedly with a fair bit less green.
mhm,
Specifically, for those who are listening and not in the chat right now, you find some sort of office. It's very dim in here, very, very dark. Um, and there is one of those bookcasing wheels in the wall behind the desk,
mhm,
with a couple supplementary ones sort of stacked with it.
mhm,
And to either side of the room, you can see the things making these printing noises, which are lines upon lines of these little screens printing out readouts, um, which get quickly spooled away onto little reels of paper, which then get um, locked into funny little canisters.
mm.
And then, has the professor ever seen a pneumatic tube system?
Oh, absolutely.
So there's something that you don't need Identify to figure out because as soon as those bits of paper are all pulled up onto their reel, uh, it gets put, the reel gets slotted into a canister, and that canister gets neumed away by the pneumatic tube system
Mm,
to somewhere.
mm, hmm.
Uh, and at the far end of this room, there is a desk with a little lamp standing next to it and a sort of comfy looking, squashy, high backed chair.
Mm.
Sitting on one corner of the desk is an hourglass, uh, which very interestingly is not flowing normally.
Uh-huh.
It's not frozen, but instead of all of the sand going up or all of the sand going down, it seems to be cycling.
Mm,
It seems that as some of the sand goes down, an equal amount will go up. And as soon as that sand hits the top, it will go back down again.
mm.
Um, Almost a hourglass shaped lava lamp.
Yeah, yeah. That's that's not something you see every day.
Nope.
Hmm. He does look uh, at the sort of pneumatic tube to see if there is an obvious direction, like are these things going straight up? Are they going straight down? Um, if there's an obvious direction they're going.
So it's interesting. All of the pneumatic tubes go into the same base channel,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which means that all of them like go towards the back of the room and then down into the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you do not know where they go after that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hmm. Well, that's fair, and that does make a sort of sense. It seems like the majority of this megastructure is towards the bottom of the clock tower.
Hmm.
So if there was somewhere it's meant to be, the chances are it could very well be down there.
It is very likely below you, yes.
Hmm. Um. Can he go to the sort of printers and read what's on the sheets? Is it more of, well, I mean, it would make sense if it's a scanner. Is it more of the same stuff that was in the books?
Yes, it is. Um, hmm. Said he's trying to read them. Please tell me he doesn't touch them.
Uh, if he's able to like get a hold, like, oh no, okay, no, I'm just gonna roll to see if he does because he's not that smart. Um, to just to just not. All right, yeah,
Bless your heart, love you.
let's roll. I guess intelligence. Yeah, that might as well be it. Okay, with a 13, I want to say he like tries to stand like and just lean over first and try and make it out.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so just leaning over and reading the text.
Mm-hmm.
It is it is the same stuff that was sort of on the books,
Mm-hmm.
as far as he can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Is still legible to him.
no.
Ah.
He can find some of them that are in common, and those are legible, but others
Mm-hmm.
are back in their original languages.
Uh-huh. Hmm. He's kind of like standing in the middle of the room, like with his hands on his hips, just like looking perplexed, trying to figure this place out. Hmm.
There are papers on the desk if you would like to look at those.
He would, absolutely.
Hey, so you know how you mentioned the professor made a connection earlier with the patterns in the doors?
Yeah.
So this isn't what's written on the papers, but it is the only example I have of the style of writing. There's something really familiar about
Mm-hmm.
what these are written in.
Yeah. It's blocky and angular, and there are lots of squares. But in the way that these shapes interact with each other, um, it does, uh, it does seem to him, resemble a Felagrayan a little bit. At least,
Hmm.
one of the forms of written Falagrayan.
Hmm.
And that's kind of perplexing. Um, it's not a language that is generally shared. Um, but he is going to try to interpret it, going to try to read it if that is possible.
Um, Noodle, your mic.
Oh no. Oh god. Sorry.
You're good. Just figured I'd tell you. Um, so, um, it is legible to somebody who can read Phalagraean. It's written in the weirdest fucking handwriting you've ever seen, but it's the same language. Or at the very least, it is very similar with only a few words you don't know. And
It's
from what you can... Sorry, go ahead.
close enough to make it out. Yeah.
And from what you can tell, this is some sort of to-do list. It is... You can find words like archival and like actually, it's not a to-do list.
Oh.
It is a... What is it fucking called? It's basically a list of where things are going.
Ah.
And you can see the titles of different books written under these labels in this weird blocky version of the language you know. You can see the titles of some of these book volumes that you've seen written underneath them, and one of them says archival, and that has the most names under it. One of them says retirement, and that has sort of a sparse few, and you can make out what look like dates written next to those. All of which are incredibly, incredibly old. Like,
Beginning
eons old.
Yeah.
Like, before any known history old.
All right. Nice.
And in fact, that seems to be the pattern there is everything that gets marked for retirement is something that is so old no one would know it. And then there are two names underneath the third and final label. Editing.
Can you read the names? Do they mean any, or do they mean anything to him? Because if you just want there to be two names,
I don't think they mean anything to him.
all right.
You know what? I can tell you what one of them is, though. The other is not in any language he recognizes, but one of them is Adelaine Valentine.
Yeah. I imagine that's a name that he doesn't, like, even if I rolled history, that's not something he recognizes.
No. That's not a name he'd know.
Huh. Yeah. He just kind of looks all this over and, like, he got a sort of feeling that the books were at least recordings of lives, and if this is a library, it's a very strange one. Some things are being archived, that's normal. Some things are being retired. Yeah, that sometimes happens. The editing, that's a little more unusual. That's not really what happens at a library. So this might not be that. It might be something else, but he's not sure what.
Oh, I will actually note something interesting. The label that says retirement. Retirement is the closest approximation. There are several other things it could mean. One of which is recycle. And another of which is separation.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, based on those three different possibilities, that could mean very different things are happening in actuality.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. Does this room appear to be the sort of end of this hallway in the clock tower, or does there seem to be more of it that goes deeper?
This room seems to be the end of this section.
Okay. Hmm.
Um, this seems to be. He gets the impression that this is the control room for this part of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he gets the impression that. How do I phrase this? This is a place that has been heavily automated.
Ah, yeah, sure.
It is not something that is visited often.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, because as he looks around and kind of takes a look at some of those screens, he notices a change on one of them. And now that he has identified the languages, he can actually read the screens because they're all written in this language.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is a note on one of them that says changing locations. And when the canister in question
Mm.
uh, goes down, it does not go towards the back of the room, back towards the desk. It goes the other way.
Oh. Huh. Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
So he gets the impression from that that this place is sort of a control room for this aspect of the system,
Yeah.
and that things can be called on from here,
Uh-huh.
and that this is sort of a processing and uh interchange point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think what he's going to do is go into another, like a hallway area landing of the clock tower, but before he does that, he would like to check and see if there are any odds and ends in the desk. Because you can sometimes tell a lot about a person from the sort of random junk they keep in their desk.
All right, sure. Roll investigation.
Certainly. Ah, okay, that's a nat one.
Uh, you find some butterscotch candies?
Yep, that doesn't tell him a whole lot. Um,
I will note a lot of these drawers are locked.
ah, hmm,
In the top drawer, you don't find anything particularly, I don't want to say incriminating, but
yeah,
maybe telling is the term.
sure.
Like, there's a couple of butterscotch candies in gold foil.
Mm-hmm,
Um, there are some tinker's tools,
mm-hmm,
couple odds and ends, gears and springs. You can't figure out anything that might say about the person other than that they like butterscotch and they have tinker's tools.
yeah. Hmm,
Which, I'd hope they'd be good with tools given the everything of this place.
yeah, yeah.
You could probably guess that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, hmm. All right. Well, I think, um, yeah, no, he got a nat one. I'm not going to keep pushing at that. He's going to try going out of this sort of arm of the hallway and go find another one to go through. Um, and
Okay.
I think as he reaches the like clock tower part, he is going to cast a spell on himself because this place has uh, as he's kind of interacted with things, like the identify worked very strangely. He doesn't want to kind of accidentally, um, have something happen. So
Doesn't want to lose his mind to any of this.
no, right. So he has a little protection spell. Let's see. He can cast it at 3rd level, and I will put the description here. It is called Intellect Fortress. The source doesn't matter. Yeah. You have resistance to psychic damage, which incidentally he already has, so doesn't matter. Advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws, though, for an hour.
Okay. I will say that with casting that spell, some of that weird atmospheric pressure feeling does fade a bit.
Nice.
Which
Cool.
is kind of how he knows that it worked.
Yeah, good.
Because if you stayed in here for too long, that would have started needing you to make saving throws.
Yeah.
To avoid sensory overload.
Yeah, that's fair. If you, I mean, you can still throw saving throws at him, but basically if they're these, he will have advantage, so.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I've got the pictures lined up in DMs. Where do you want to explore next? What do you think would catch his eye next?
If that, is the pinkish one an option, or should I maybe go for the bluish one? Because I don't remember if you said that was here or that was somewhere else.
Well, all of these are within the same space. And this place is weird and it has hallways that move around. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
So if he wants to find I'm guessing you're talking about the one with all the stained glass, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he can find that one.
All right. Yeah. Then that is going to be the next thing that catches his attention.
Yeah, so as he's walking, he finds a sort of hallway that is unique because in this place of seemingly perpetual twilight, there is suddenly bright daylight. Shining through, again, a set of stained glass doors with that same symbol on them.
Yeah. He'll go over to the doors and take another look at the see if this one has the same sort of
The weird bubbles?
Yeah, the weird bubbles. And see if he can, if it has it, if he can figure out what it is this time.
Okay. Roll me, it does have the bubbles, so roll me investigation or intelligence.
Okay, I will roll investigation. Okay. And that's yes. 22.
So, I am going to make an executive DM call here. Professor, as you are looking at these bubbles, you kind of reach out and set a hand against the glass and sort of trace one of the lines of bubbles. And, is the professor telepathic in any way?
I would say mildly, yeah. He's had training.
Okay. So, it's as you trace your fingers over these patterns, over these lines of bubbles and sort of twisting threads, you catch memories. You catch laughter and music and merriment and joy from whatever lays beyond these doors. You catch memories of festivals gone by. You catch memories of time spent with friends. You catch memories of dancing.
Mm.
And you get the impression that this is a ballroom beyond this door.
Ooh. Yeah. He's going to he is intrigued. He's very intrigued. Um and he is going to try to enter.
Go right on ahead. Roll me a dex save.
Ah. Okay. Let's see here. Your save is actually quite good. That's an 18.
Okay, I will say that is not bad enough that you immediately fall off the edge. That's pretty good. So you open the door, you do not immediately step through, which is good because you can see the platform in the middle of the room that serves as the dance floor. You can also see the massive gap of space around it
Ah.
because the dance floor is this sort of it's this sort of hemisphere with a flat surface on top of it and a few rings spinning around it. Um, Lit by these sparkling, shimmering, multicolored glass stars. Um, and all around the room, you have these beautiful, tall, stained glass windows shining light down into the space, which should be impossible because this is broad daylight, and last you checked, it was night outside with no indication that there was ever any possibility for a sun.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, but underneath that hemisphere is a drop, and it is a steep one into thick, heavy mist that stops you from seeing where the bottom might be.
Mm-hmm. I think he is going to be um a bit of a little shit, and he's going to
Mm-hmm.
take a copper piece um and toss it and see see if he can hear when it hits the bottom, if it does hit the bottom.
Um, it whooshes into the void.
He stands there for a minute listening but gets nothing.
You know what? Actually, roll me perception.
Ooh, all right. Hmm. That's only a 10.
You know what? I will say that's enough because I think this is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you drop your coin into the void,
Mm-hmm.
and it falls for long enough that you think it's just not going to hit the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And then, very, very faintly, you hear a splash.
Ooh. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Uh, is the ballroom floor this circular, well, hemispheric platform within 500 feet of the door?
Yes, it is.
Yay. He's gonna use Dimension Door and hop over there.
Okay. You are now on the hemisphere.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. I just want to make sure.
Congratulations.
um, yeah, he's just gonna, look around the place from this new perspective, see if there's any uh things he couldn't see from the door, like any carvings in the floor or anything like that.
Hmm.
Because the place is
I will.
very ornate.
Yeah, it is very detailed. And you get the impression that there's probably a lot of symbols hidden in like the architecture and the carvings and the details of the place. You could probably spend years in here and not see everything. Um, Everything in here, every little piece of this building seems to have been intricately handcrafted.
Ooh, that's so cool.
Um, the floor underfoot specifically is inlaid with that same symbol that you keep seeing on the doors.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Huh. The the symbol of the bubbles or a different?
The hourglass inside of the gear
Oh, that part.
with the
Ah.
sun rays around it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Huh. Hmm. Yeah, he just
Apologies if my water picks up on the mic.
Oh, you're good. Um yeah, he just kind of like walks a circle around it and stops and uh let's see, what is he gonna can he see the ceiling? I know he can't see the floor.
Yes, he can see the ceiling.
Uh-huh.
Above his head, he can see uh this very tall, lofted, arched ceiling
Mm.
uh made of that same stained glass.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Well, in that case, he's going to go to the edge of the platform and call down to the bottom of it. Hello!
So here's the funny thing.
Uh-huh.
In a space like that, you'd expect to hear an echo.
Yes.
There's nothing.
Mm-hmm. He just kind of frowns at it.
His voice doesn't echo back. In fact, he gets a very distinct impression of the sound being swallowed.
Hmm. He just kind of taps his foot like, this place is very perplexing.
I'm gonna roll a d20 real quick to see how close. How have you gotten further away? She's busy, apparently.
Oh, boy. Well, he's, it doesn't seem to him that there's a lot, quite so many features in here to investigate. I mean, besides analyzing the symbology, maybe,
Mhm.
as the other place, which had a lot of sort of fixtures of different sorts.
Mhm.
So he's gonna kind of take a last, look around and then using Dimension Door, go back to the hallway.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, the impression he very much gets from this room is that this room was purpose built,
Mm.
uh, and it is not serving its purpose right now.
Ah,
That was that was a dance hall, that was a ballroom, and there is not a party being held right now.
yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, he did get that memory string, so
Hmm.
this makes sense. Hmm. I think it's gonna be the bluish image you've sent me that gets his attention next.
Ah, the observatory.
Indeed.
So that one's fun. So as he is continuing down and down and down and down the staircase, um, he catches sight of a door through which the light streaming is not that orangey marmalade golden yellow,
Mm.
but a sort of pale silvery blue.
Mm. Yeah. He's gonna.
And so far, all of the hallways with actual doors have been places.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. He's going to. Well, I think this time he's going to see if the door has that um the bubbles in it.
Yeah.
He's gonna touch them and see what happens.
So he gets memories of hmm. He gets the feeling of intensive study.
Mm.
He gets the feeling of peace and calm. He gets the mental image of what roll me intelligence?
Sure. That is a 10.
He gets the impression of what to him looks like a night sky.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he gets the impression of someone sitting with somebody else telling stories.
Mm-hmm.
The person telling the story never changes. The person sitting next to them often does.
Mm.
There is the feeling of slow, gentle, steady movement. There is the feeling of peace and of calm. And there is more of that faint music.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. He's going to go inside.
Alrighty. Inside this door, uh, he does not need to be as careful about the sheer drop.
Mm-hmm.
While there are gaps in the floor, they are not as terrifying because there are platforms sort of slowly rotating through the room to make everything easy to access. Um, in particular, they all seem to cycle back to the large telescope. He assumes that's a telescope
Mm-hmm.
that is staring up through the massive window in this room's ceiling up to a, again, it looks like a night sky.
Mm-hmm.
But that shouldn't be possible because he saw what the sky outside this place looks like.
Yeah.
This
He.
place doesn't have real stars.
Yeah. He saw it had hanging light bulbs, but hmm. He's going to go on in and I think try to see if he can see through the quote unquote telescope.
Professor, you keep doing things that need you to
Nah.
make saves.
Uh-huh.
Roll me a wisdom save.
All right. I get to
Good
do
thing you
it.
gave yourself advantage.
Indeed. Hmm. Okay. That's just a 7. Cool.
That's not high enough.
No.
Okay. So, this is becoming a fucking pattern. Professor,
Mm-hmm.
you look through this telescope expecting to see, well, the average telescope experience, a night sky full of stars. That is not what you get.
Mm-hmm.
It starts that way. It starts as what you can see out that big glass window, which is what look like hundreds upon thousands upon bajillions of teeny tiny little stars, some of which are looped up and connected like constellations. But as you look through the telescope, without you hitting any of the dials, without you moving any of the controls, without your say so,
Mm.
it starts to navigate. It starts to zoom in, and then its focus starts to split.
Mm.
And Professor has been many, many places.
Mm-hmm.
And as he watches through this lens, the focus shifts in first on one particular star, one particular brightly glowing star off on its own. Interestingly, it's in a loop with 11 other stars. It is the 12th in a loop of 11.
Huh.
And as it zooms in, its focus splits. First, it splits into 3. And he sees Darth, and he sees Zatori, and he sees Felagray. And then it splits again. Places he's spent plenty of time and perhaps returns to often, but hasn't had any sort of a life on. Splits again. Places he's visited that he had intense or memorable adventures but didn't come back to. Splits again. Places that he's only stopped at for a brief time. Places he's only just visited to see 1 or 2 sites. Splits again. Places he's passed by in his travels that he didn't pay much attention to. Splits again. Places he's only heard of. Places that were beyond his time or beyond his capacity to visit, but that he heard stories of. Splits again. Places he has never known. Everywhere. Everything. Branching off infinitely into everything within that universe. And then there is a hand on his shoulder and he is being yanked away from the telescope. And like shoved to sit the fuck down.
He just sort of like well, I mean, he was so kind of in it. He probably doesn't. He probably has kind of a delayed reaction, basically to the effect of like batting at the hands that hit him, but like too late to make any difference.
The very exasperated voice responds to his reaction with just, "You're fucking welcome."
Hello?
What on earth were you thinking?
It's.
What in all of the universes were you thinking?
I thought it was a telescope.
There's no stars here. Why would I have a telescope?
He sort of like shrugs and like gestures out the window like, they look enough like stars.
Anything can look like stars if you see it from far enough away.
Alright, well, I didn't know.
Clearly, you damn near lost yourself.
I'd have been fine.
Trust me, you wouldn't have been.
Alright.
Um,
Thanks.
You're welcome. Now, how the heck did you get in here? Does he look to see who's talking to him?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So standing sort of behind him, you know, between him and the definitely not a fucking telescope, is a short, very heavy-set, Toonkind woman. Or at the very least, first impression is that she looks Toonkind. In a sort of very casual white button-down with the sleeves rolled up, and dark brown dress slacks with pinstripes. The sort of thing that should look fancy, but because of how she's wearing it, looks very relaxed and casual. Very messy, curly blonde hair, and very strange eyes that have Professor roll me history real quick.
Certainly. Okay, that's an 18 plus 9. That's 24.
Those eyes are a very familiar color. Because the professor has seen
Yeah.
Juby use some of his pact magic. And her eyes are that same shade of gold. And she also has on a necklace with little golden tablets that have that same writing from words English from inside the office.
Yeah. He's he reaches into his pocket and takes out a white wax paper bag and offers it to her, saying, "Would you like a gummy bear?"
You know what? Sure, actually. I'll never turn out sweets. You want a butterscotch in return?
Sure.
She will hand him a little gold foil wrapped butterscotch and she will take a gummy bear.
Excellent. He'll pop that in his mouth. He likes sweets.
It's a very nice butterscotch, although it interestingly has a little bit of a saltiness to it as well. It's not just pure sugar, there is both sugar and salt to that.
Nice.
Reference to who she is in Sweetstone.
Yeah.
And she will munch on a gummy bear.
He'll get up off the floor.
Roll con to see if he got dizzy.
Yeah, sure. What's your modifier again? Okay, that's a total of 14.
Okay. Yeah, there's a little bit of a head rush, but he can recover from it.
Nice.
Because the whiz save was low, but it wasn't an @1.
Yeah. All right. Wow. So, oh yes, you asked how I got here. Took a wrong turn, I expect.
I'll say. Don't know how you take a wrong enough turn that you wind up outside of everything.
Is that where I am?
Outside of everything, in the middle of everything is...
He'll put out his hand. I'm the professor, by the way.
I know.
Oh?
She will shake his hand. Lady Retrospect, pleased to meet you.
Good to meet you, too. And he sort of tilts his head, like, thinking, has he heard that before? No,
And
not that name.
she smiles and just says, "You know my son."
Your son. And I think the eyes and the, like, color of the light kind of snap together. Wait, but Jubilee?
That's the one.
I thought his mother was the... He said his mother was a goddess?
She is. We both are.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. She shrugs. She's like, "Yeah, I'm a deity. I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it."
Yeah. He's just kind of like as he's getting more information, putting more pieces together, like, oh, okay, he's the biological child of possibly the other god and his dad, because he knows he has a dad. A biological dad, that is. There's also Tome, but that's different. Um, but, like, okay, yeah, you can have more than just two parents. That's all right. He can he can he can understand that. Um,
Mhm.
so he's just like, oh, okay, right, yes, I do know Jubilee. You are you responsible for his he sort of like points over his like opposite shoulder to where like wings would be.
And she kind of like shrugs a shoulder at that, just like, I'm the reason he has him now. Not the reason he has him in the first place, but
Uh-huh. He did say something about, I don't know, putting something right. All right.
mm-hmm.
Hmm. Um he does sort of make a kind of strained face, like, does that mean you're a time deity?
Oh, absolutely the fuck not. Are you kidding? I don't have anywhere near the amount of responsibility for that.
Ah, well, that's all right. I have a. Hmm. Uh, he just sort of waves a hand, like dismissively, like I kind of have beef with some of them. So
And she just shrugs a shoulder and says, I'm I'm only responsible for time so much as I am responsible for other people's perception of it.
that's interesting. Other
Hmm.
people's perception of time. Hmm. And why are you responsible for people's perception of time?
Um, she kind of like looks him over and then just kind of does a sort of awkward little jazz hands and says, "'Cause I am personal memory."
Personal memory.
Yep. I
Hmm.
am how people, humanity, or characters, or whatever you want to call them, process their understanding of time. I am what you remember. I am what everyone remembers.
Hmm. Their experiences, their memories.
Exactly. I am not concrete. I am not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
I am not infallible.
Mm-hmm.
But I am what you have to rely on.
Indeed. Hmm. Well, it's good to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. You've done a lot of good work that I'm honestly quite grateful for. You saved me a lot of trouble.
Did I?
Well, you left me a lot less messes to clean up. And she will start to lead the way out of the observatory away from the telescope.
Uh-huh. You will follow.
Because the professor has been on a bunch of adventures which involved saving various people or saving various worlds.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What exactly? What do you mean?
Well, I'm not a big fan of tragedy, and you're real good at preventing them.
Ah. Well, I like to think so. Don't have a perfect track record, but I
Who
try.
does these days?
Good point. Still,
The fact that you try is better than, like, I don't know, a good solid 80% of people.
certain people I could name. Yes. Hmm. Well, you're welcome.
There, now we're even.
Mm.
We both had to say thank you for something.
Mm-hmm. So is this your place, then?
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure how you're alive.
Oh?
You really should not be able to persist in this place. This place is not mortal friendly. I don't, especially with how she says you've been poking around. I,
Oh. Uh, he sort of, like, does a finger gesture of, like, around, being like, she?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
she,
Got it, alright.
my other half.
Uh-huh. What did she say about me?
That you tried some kind of magic whoozy what's it, and that she like gestures with her head towards the door to the observatory wasn't the first time you nearly lost yourself in here.
Well, I was trying to be careful.
She just looks at him.
Um, I suppose, uh, as for how I'm, uh, here and not dead, I guess I'm just special?
Built different, as Julie would say.
Hmm.
Honestly, some of the ways you're built different should make this place worse for you.
um, I
You're closer to you're closer to me when it comes to perception of time than you are to someone like. And she like lists off a couple of different people that both she and the professor know.
Uh-huh. He just kind of gives her a perplexed look, like, uh, you.
But I'm built for this place. Like I said, she's the other half of me, so all of this isn't gonna crush me.
Right. Well, I, admit I can sort of feel some of the pressure of this place, but, suppose I'm resilient enough to, not immediately succumb?
Apparently.
If I was here longer, maybe, but I don't intend to move
Probably.
in.
Yeah, no, probably not the sort of thing you should test out. And she kind of looks up through the gears towards where the clock face is. And she kind of hums and says, well, at least you popped in the Zatori quadrant. That does settle some of it.
Well, that is
Oh.
roughly where I came from, albeit by way of, I guess, well, they would call it the ethereal plane.
The ethereal plane, space, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
She kind of frowns and says, yeah, so it would make sense that she kept you to where your source material is, but
Source material.
oh yeah. You wouldn't want to go to some of the places that you can get to from here without my help. Because otherwise translation errors are a hell of a bitch.
Ah. Okay. That I can understand. I've been to enough places that are hostile to my biology.
This would be less hostile to your biology and more hostile to the very concept of your existence.
I see.
There are some places where different types of beings or people just don't click right and can't continue. There's a particularly dangerous jump between this one and another one that I tend to frequent. that very, very dangerous. Immediate death type dangerous.
Oh.
Uh, Immediate death by crushing type dangerous. Not fun.
Hmm.
Uh, because everybody there is made of very, very different materials to you. So if you tried to go there, the world itself would not know how to handle someone like you
Mm-hmm.
within its scale.
Mm-hmm. So you can access different dimensions from here, not just planets or planes.
Uh, I can do a lot more than that.
Different
Dimensions,
universes?
think bigger.
Different
I think the
realities.
bingo. The
Alright.
Although the term I prefer is different stories,
Ah.
different settings, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That, and she like points back at the observatory again, was what you were looking into.
Uh-huh. I did.
That's the navigation room.
Mm-hmm. I did.
Or the observatory. I do tend to just hang out in there to watch everything go by sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when I can't sleep.
Uh-huh. I did see a lot of familiar places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could tell who you were, so it tried to show you what it thought you might want to see. But you
Uh-huh.
didn't go into it with any particular goal in mind, so it just started showing you everything.
Ah. Hmm.
That thing is called the Oculus. It is a very finicky artifact. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be very precise when you're using it, or you have to be me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Again, everything here, she kind of gestures and she's like, I will note she's not being like grandiose or self-aggrandizing about it. She's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of being like, yep, this is a part of me. Of
Mm-hmm.
course it works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Matter of fact. Yeah. So, well, you said you already know I'm the professor. Do you know who I am other than that?
Um, let's see. Renegade Times are, right?
Yes.
Know that much. I know you helped prevent the tragedy with the Audien's kid that
Mm.
Juby was worried about a while back. I know that you recently handled some of your own situation
Mm.
with, don't tell me, it was a brother, right?
Yes. Technically.
Yeah, that guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
Mm, She like goes through and probably lists off like a couple things about the professor, like a couple adventures we've seen on screen and possibly even a few that we haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any ideas, feel free to share them.
Oh yeah.
Like if there's something that he would like catch and just be like, "How the fuck did you know that?"
Yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of having that reaction to most of this, but also like he's like, all right, deity, some level of omniscience. It seems. Um, he's making assumptions, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, no, I mean, some things like things that yeah, he would kind of be like, okay, like that's an adventure I took on my own. Like you couldn't have just asked somebody who else who participated. Like you just know that, I guess.
Hmm. Hmm.
Huh. Okay, so you know there a lot.
I have approximate knowledge of many things.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you do here?
Uh, what in this bit specifically?
Uh, he shrugs. Well, I saw the observatory. I saw the. It seemed like a ballroom to me, and sort of, um, office with archival materials?
Oh, yeah. The ballroom. You didn't try and jump off anything, did you?
No.
Uh, no, of course you wouldn't.
I mean,
You're still here. So you
right.
okay.
I don't have anything that would allow me to do that safely. Too long a drop.
Yeah, no. Too long a drop into something that wouldn't let you back up.
Mm.
And she kind of grimaces at that. And he remembers the sound of the splash and then the fact that his echo got eaten up.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not just water down there.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of, like, again shrugs a shoulder and gestures to everything around them and says, well, this bit is mostly archival. Although, like I said, observation deck is for navigation. That one's for specifically monitoring. Oh, not monitoring. That makes it sound so panopticon. No, it's specifically for checking to make sure there's not anywhere new I need to bridge to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, if I need to bridge to somewhere else, it'll just show up because it always does. But it's good for checking what kind of person that universe is going to need me to be, what kind of role I need to play in that story, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the stuff upstairs, you went into the old records office. On the other side of the tower, you have the new records office, which is basically the same thing. It's just film instead of books.
Oh.
Um, that's all about the processing of old memories into either records to be kept or into new lifeline. That's what we do with anything that's too old for anyone to remember. That stuff gets recycled, turned into, and she kind of taps her fingers together and then pulls them apart, kind of cat's cradle style. And there is suddenly a skein of bright golden line hanging between her fingers that glows very, very brightly. That gets turned into this stuff. This stuff is what gets used to make new souls or extend the life of older souls. Either or.
Huh.
And she kind of twists it and puts it away again.
Interesting. What happens if, theoretically, there was nothing that got forgotten after a point? Would you have nothing to recycle? No materials to use?
What if we got to a point where just like everything was remembered forever?
Yes.
Well, that would be a fucking nightmare scenario, but yeah, eventually we'd probably run out of stuff to use. I've never seen something like that happen. We've never even had much of a dry spell, multiverse, multiple universes everywhere all the time. Death is a universal constant. So the minute it's no longer in use, it would suck because it would mean that there would be people who were being forgotten before their time. But if we ever had too bad of a drought, we could just start recycling the newly dead instead of the millennia old dead. But that's worst case scenario, bottom of the barrel type shit.
Interesting. I Do you have any trouble with let's see, the time stars do make certain efforts to keep things recorded, recover things that weren't recorded.
Hmm.
Do they cause you any trouble? Are they, or is that small enough of a, uh, happening that it gets, leveled out by the rest of this?
They, eh, they never tend to, like you said, they go for stuff that's been forgotten, but you have to know what's been forgotten to try and restore it.
True.
They never have tried to pull from the stores of the stuff that is old enough to be recycled yet.
Mm-hmm. I see. Huh.
You guys have been around for a long time, but you ain't existed that long.
No, no. Well, interesting. I wonder if it'll get to that point at some time.
I should hope not. They caused me my share of trouble already.
Yes?
Hmm. She kind of frowns. Don't like anybody who practices redactions.
Ah, yes. Uh,
That's the sort of thing that has to be done carefully, but no, whenever mortals do it, it's just, yes, I'm just going to go in and completely rip out everything, regardless of consequences. Because that's certainly not going to fuck anything up.
hmm. Are you
She just,
referring to, memory manipulation or to, erasing people from existence?
yes?
Ah.
Well, hmm.
Well, I mean, yes,
She,
one of them usually requires the other, but.
yeah, exactly. You can't exactly have one without the other.
Hmm.
Um, she kind of frowns and says, I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the function of redactions. I just don't think they do.
Possibly not. They certainly are, a bit more judicious with the process than, uh, I'm personally comfortable with.
Hmm. She kind of frowns and nods and says, yeah, there's a difference between pruning dead branches and ripping out a rose thinking it's a weed.
Quite. Well, hmm. Well, and I suppose we're not so widespread as to be, perhaps an extreme issue with, hmm. Well, we tend to hold on to our memories, is the thing, compared to other mortal species.
Hmm. That's not so much of a problem for me. She
No?
kind of shrugs and says, you can keep a copy. In the end, when you die, it does still come to me.
What if. Well, we kind of usually put it in a repository with all of the other ones.
Hmm.
That's not an issue?
No. I mean, does, you know, let's say, for example, a vet goes through a war. You
Yes.
have a veteran who finished in a war. Does their memory of that war stop existing once it gets printed into the history books?
No?
Exactly. Record keeping and record keeping is not stealing.
Okay.
I've always believed in the importance of record keeping personally.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I started doing all this.
I think I may have.
Someone had to.
Hmm. I think I may have misunderstood whether you were. Whether you were, helped more by the, uh, disappearance or recycling of information or the, preservation of it.
Well, neither one nor the other. They're part of the same cycle. I mean, yes, we do need a steady flow of memories so that, you know, when we need more lifeline, we can make more. I that's a good portion of my job, at the very least in this part of the universe. In this particular story, that is the role I play, among many. This one, she kind of smiles and makes a little gesture. There's a flicker of a moment where there's like a theatrical mask on her face before it disappears and says, "This one lets me play a multitude of parts, for which I am very thankful because it's honestly refreshing." But one of them is, of course, as one of the maintainers of the cycle of life and character stories and reusing inspiration, reusing ideas, circulating stories, circulating ideas and thoughts and whatnot and what have you. But nothing that is... You're thinking on too small of a scale, I think. Because nothing that is present enough for you to preserve is anything that I would be trying to remove anyway, or anything I would be trying to use anyway. Anything that is in active memory is nothing that I would ever have to touch. Well, unless it required editing, but that's its own thing. And that's not something I do lightly. Nothing that's in active memory is anything that's going to get recycled unless the nightmare scenario happens. And there is an inevitability to the fact that eventually everything will be forgotten.
Right. Well, it seems as if, for once, for once, I may have met a god who doesn't have a reason to dislike me on principle, because of where I come from.
That would be very silly, Amina, wouldn't it?
I suppose so.
And she kind of smiles and says, I mean, don't get me wrong. I forgot where I was going with that sentence. She just kind of stares at the gears and is just like, I forgot where I was going with that sentence.
Bit ironic.
Yeah, no, you'd be surprised. Like I said, not infallible.
Yeah, you did say that. Did you give Jubilee that watch?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I give one to all my warlocks.
Well, seems very fond of it.
Well, I should hope so. He does need it. So it would be very bad for him if he were to decide he didn't like it.
He just kind of squints. He gave me the impression that he shouldn't be parted with it, but why does he need it?
She kind of waggles a hand back and forth, just like, well, being separated from your soul is never much good for anybody.
Your soul? But... Why? You're saying you gave him a soul, and that's it?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying I put his soul in that.
Why?
Because if I didn't, it was gonna go somewhere where it wasn't supposed to, for one. For another, in order for me to be able to give someone magic, I have to be able to put something with them at their, she kind of gestures vaguely, core bit, and the soul's the easiest way to do it. Especially when it comes to something that requires a physical component like Jubilee.
He's just kind of squinting. That sounds a bit extreme, but I don't. That does kind of still line up with what I know about warlock pacts and similar agreements. They tend to be a bit extreme.
Yeah. She doesn't elaborate, just, yeah, no, they do.
Well,
No one makes a deal with something that can give them that kind of power lightly.
no one?
No one with good sense. Some people, they don't realize what they're getting into, or they get manipulated into it, in which case, the actual solidity of that bargain is questionable at best. But at the very least, in my cases, most people take a bargain with me because they don't have another option.
Don't have another option, as in aren't given another choice, or sort of they've tried everything else.
I am a last resort method. I only interfere when there is no other option.
But it is a choice.
It's a choice.
All right then.
The only, well, some people would debate whether it's a choice, but I don't force it on anybody.
Well, that's about what I was asking.
Some people debate whether it's a choice because, if your options are take a second chance or die,
Right.
even if
Still,
I'm not the one holding the gun to their head, it's not much of an option if they don't want to die.
no, it's not exactly a good or equitable choice, but or die is still an option.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But like I said, I don't like tragedies.
Right, right. Why? Why all the clockwork? I'm not complaining. I love it.
But it is a choice in aesthetic.
I suppose.
She shrugs and says, like I said, I am only time so much as I am people's perception of it. But I do get tied up with time in my domain, my multitudes, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's a common mistake for people to make. And there is an element of it to what I do. And what is the thing that most people use as their measure, as their go-to measure of passing time?
The memory.
Well, not just that, a ticking clock.
Oh. Right. Hmm. All right.
Plus, plus it's damned convenient, and it makes for easy tinkering, good building material, makes it easier to work and improve things, make them run a bit smoother.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose if I wanted to, I could be like one of those gods who sits about with just a massive domain that they have to manage by hand, but that gets so inconvenient on a multi-story scale. That would be exhausting. I would never have time to do anything else. I would just be constantly doing archiving and records, and I'm gonna be perfectly honest, as much as I love reading stories, that stuff bores me to tears.
Hence the automation.
Hence the automation. Technology is a marvel. You should see some of the areas where the technology is a bit more advanced.
Mm-hmm. He does look curious.
She just smiles.
Um. Oh, I am gonna ask her to roll a perception, uh, on him,
Of course.
because I forgot.
So that's a 6 on the dice, which means that's a 31.
Yeah, okay. Two things. Let's see. One, he's wearing a ring, a sort of gray crystal ring that has a symbol on it, which, while not the sort of angular, squarish version that she uses, uh, does read in uh, that language or some approximation of it. Satisfaction. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, that does make her quirk a bit of a smile, but
uh-huh. And there's let's see, I don't know if she would recognize, but there's a pin he's got on his coat that is toonish in make and has celestial energy about it. It is a gift from Retcon.
mm-hmm. She would recognize that. She is part of the Celestial Nipple Club.
Nice.
Celestial Knitting Club. Oh my god.
I
That was a verbal typo. I am so sorry. Celestial Knitting Club. Oh my god.
I I
I
wasn't
think I
sure if
wanted to
I
say
just misheard.
Celestial Knitting Club. I am so sorry. I would think I was trying to say ripple and knitting at the same time, and it just did not come through. That is embarrassing. Okay, we can never release this to the public. Kill me now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna crawl into a hole and die. That is a word that I said. Oh god.
She's from the Celestial Knitting Club, yes.
Yes, she does participate in that on occasion. Not
Mhm.
often because again, she doesn't typically fuck with the established flow of time,
Mhm.
but bigger situations she'll come and help iron out.
Nice.
Moving on. And she would like note that and give it kind of an approving look, and she kind of yeah. I don't think the professor is close enough to read any of the words on her necklace.
Mhm. Yeah, if they're small.
Yeah, they're small and they're lightly etched.
Mm-hmm. Uh, well, there wouldn't really be a reason for him to jump to this, but I lost my train of thought anyway. So, um, he does kind of think for a moment. The writing in that office, that's what do you call that? The sort of angular stuff, script, and he just sort of like mimes a square with his finger.
Hmm? Oh, that's I don't know. I never really gave it a name. It's just handwriting, shorthand. Mm-hmm.
Uh huh. It's remarkably similar to uh Valagrean.
Yeah.
Huh.
When you're trying to summarize the same ideas, I suppose convergent evolution.
Ah, I suppose it's possible. Hmm.
She shrugs and just says, "It's just sort of what came along when I was developing it. I mean, you've seen how messy it can get trying to get everything my usual way." And she gestures at the glass on the doors.
Ah, that's is that how you usually communicate ideas with the sort of uh, etching containing a
That one
memory?
does that one does have a name. That's called Echo. And
Oh.
yeah, basically, it's it's a way of inlaying memories and ideas into coherent, readable formats,
Mm-hmm.
communicating with thoughts and feelings and emotions rather than concrete words. Whereas shorthand is more eh, big picture.
Mm-hmm. I've seen, well, not nothing quite like that, but uh, similar sort of communication styles. I think they're a bit more common in uh, empathic societies.
Hmm, that will make sense. There is a tempath. Dang it, I am making all the verbal typos today. There, that's not the voice. There is a empathic and telepathic uh bent to it, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's just what's always made the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first language I ever learned to speak. I had to figure out talking proper to interact with you people.
Hmm. Hmm. Out of curiosity, uh, where did you originally come from? Various deities have given me different, um, well, origin stories, I suppose. Very, very different ones.
Hmm. She nods and says, I'm more of a primordial force than a direct deity. To be specifically a deity, you have to have come into existence as an object of worship, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been here.
Okay.
I I started when the first ever when the first ever story started, and that was the first ever thing that ever had to be remembered. That was when I got free of oblivion.
Hmm.
I suppose on the day when there is no longer anything to remember, no one to remember it, poof.
Hmm. I see. All right. So not, as you said, more of a force, not that kind of, uh, not a deity, but a different sort of god.
Hmm.
Primordial,
I
as
would
you
say
say.
I'm an inevitability, but that sounds pretentious.
Oh well, I've heard plenty of pretentious things, particularly from gods. So, He just kind
We
of
do
shrugs.
tend to be a prideful lot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't really throw stones with regard to my kind. They're also pretty pretentious.
Yeah.
Hmm.
She kind of shrugs and says, some people think that because they know a lot or can do a lot, that makes them inherently better. It doesn't make you better, it just makes you different.
Yes. Yeah. That's not necessarily something that they've grasped. Or at
Eh,
least they choose not to believe it.
eh, not sure. They'll have time to grow. It'll be their choice whether or not they use it.
Hmm. Oh, if there's one thing we've got, it's time.
More and less than you'd think.
Hmm. He does kind of glance at her at that, but he has a policy of not asking gods to tell him the future, so he's not going to press. He's going to assume it's as uh, enigmatic and meaningless as it can be. A figurative.
Mm-hmm.
That's the.
That's just how time always is.
Yeah.
You always have more and less of it than you think you do.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, this is a very interesting place you've got here. Is there a bottom to this thing?
Oh, yes. You don't want to go there.
Why?
Because the stuff that's down there wouldn't let you back up.
Hmm. Is it a
And she...
substance? I'd heard a splash.
It's... Hmm.
Press
And
F to
she
pay respects to
hums.
the copper piece.
Press F to pay respects. She kind of hums. And actually, that would be something fun and interesting. Professor,
Mm.
you remember you heard a splash. You don't remember what you threw that splashed.
What? Ah.
You
Well.
remember you dropped something and it splashed. You don't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm. He. Yeah. He realizes
And
that.
she would probably ask, like, what exactly was it that you threw that made that splash?
Well, it was a. Frowns, brows furrow. Well, it wouldn't have. Well, it had to. He sort of just like reaches in his pocket, like, well, it wasn't that or that because they're still here. I, uh, that's. He kind of squints at her, like, I'm supposed to be able to remember that.
Whatever it was, now it never existed.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, if I threw it,
The
it
stuff,
probably wasn't important.
probably not. I couldn't tell you. I don't know what it is. But the stuff at the bottom of this place, the stuff that flows through this place, is its rivers and its lakes and its oceans. It is the end of all things. It is the final dark into which everything must eventually sink. It's where I came from. And it is
Oblivion.
what eventually everything will return.
Mm-hmm. Oblivion, as you said.
Bingo.
Hmm.
They are right proper bitch. What? I'm allowed to say that. They tried to eat me.
Sure. I think that's only fair.
I can call you a bitch if you try to eat me. That's fair's fair.
Hmm. It's interesting. You recognize that it will be an inevitability, but use your time until then to, well, work against it.
Why wouldn't I? She kind of shrugs a shoulder and says, just because eventually everything will go away, that doesn't mean that it's not important for the moments that it's here. It doesn't mean that for the time we have them, the beautiful things in life aren't precious.
Hmm.
Just because eventually something will come along and take them from us.
I know that. That's not a sentiment I usually hear from immortals.
I think there's a very distinct difference between those who are created with immortality, those who are mortal and achieve immortality, and those who could never be fully mortal.
Hmm.
She kind of gets this sort of faraway look in her eyes and just says, I envy you, all of you.
Oh.
There is a loneliness that can't be properly put into words with an existence like this.
Hmm.
And my options are either to shut myself away completely, dissolve and become just a function of the universe, or to learn to love and lose and love regardless. And, well, like we said, do or die.
Hmm.
Not much of a choice.
Hmm.
I envy you a lot who will have people who will be around for the entirety of your lives.
Hmm. Well, as a mortal, I might understand you a bit better than most. Understand that sentiment. Um, Considering how extended a time star's lifespan can be.
Yeah.
But it is finite, and on that point, we do differ.
I think it's a matter of we will always be envious of that which we don't have.
Hmm. Perhaps so.
Mortals spend their entire lives looking for a way to buy just a little more time, and me, I have all that I could ever want, and I don't want any of it. Well, that's depressing. No,
You don't want that
I want
much.
some of it. I certainly don't want all this.
Hmm.
And there's sort of a soft, like, ringing sound that goes through the building.
Hmm.
And Retro hums and just says, I know, I'm trying not to be so morose about it. She doesn't like it when I get down on myself.
Well, it sounds like she's a pretty good friend.
Of course. She was the first one I ever had. She'll likely be the last.
Well,
And she kind of smiles at that.
better to have one than not.
Absolutely. And she's almost as good at what I do as I am. There is another chime. This time it sounds a little bit more disgruntled. Like, what do you mean almost? You must be a good one. She doesn't tend to talk to me when other people are around.
Well, you know, I was going to say I try to be polite, but that's not always true.
Well, I suppose there's something to be said for too much politeness being a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
But really, we should probably get you, and I have Professor roll con save, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, as she brings it up.
Perfect, yes. Oh boy. Alright, that is a 7.
Again?
Yeah. Con save, that's a 7. He doesn't get advantage on this one.
Nope. Yeah, okay. So, Professor, it's getting hard to breathe.
Yep.
Like, as you've, like, neared this point in the conversation, you started getting short of breath. And now it's hard to breathe.
Yeah, he does kind of, like, visibly realize this and, probably put a hand to his head. What were you saying?
Don't worry about it. Sweetheart, can you bring us up? And there is a sort of clicking and whirring and a little platform with a sort of railing around it pops up next to the landing that you guys are standing on, and she will kind of usher the professor onto it.
Yep.
And there's like a bench sort of around the edge, and she'll have him sit down.
Yeah, he will. It's like the air is starting to get kind of thin.
And the, makeshift lift will take them up. And back up top to where the Ellipsis is parked. She will look at the edge and look at the front door of the Ellipsis and says, "Oh, that's not going to be a good one. Sweetie, can you?" And there is a sort of clunk, 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 and the little statues to either side of the platform do a bit of a spin, and so does the Ellipsis.
Oh my gosh.
As the ground underneath her rotates.
Oh my gosh. Well.
To get the front door somewhere a bit more safe.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah, I'd be a pretty bad host if I let you try to crab walk your way back around that ledge while, lightheaded.
Well, this has been a very nice visit, but I think I should go.
Yep, and don't come back to this part. If you want to visit again, you're welcome to, but please, at the very least, visit the actual proper section and not this part.
I'll try.
I don't even know how you got here. I
He shrugs.
You might have a couple settings you need to fix, hon.
Alright. I'll look into it.
She will just give him a handshake and a nod and just get out of here, you silly goose.
Yeah, he grins and waves goodbye, but does, get thee to the ellipsis.
Get thee to the fucking ellipsis, you goober.
It's probably the inside of the ellipsis is did I make it connected to the? It doesn't matter. It probably feels at least a little bit better in there, but they should.
It would definitely feel significantly easier to breathe in there, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he will take off. After maybe taking a second longer to to figure out how to leave than usual. But yeah. Retrospect will see the ellipses sort of fade in and out of existence in this space, and eventually fade for the final time with some funny mechanical noises.
My favorite mechanical sounds, but don't worry about it. And she does just kind of wave as she watches them go. And then she looks up at the clock face and raises an eyebrow and then just says, "What the heck were you doing bringing them here, huh? Keep them within their section next time you want visitors." No, I don't. I'm not mad at you for bringing them around. I'll admit I was curious too, but you gotta be more careful. I keep telling you, they're squishy. We can't bring them here. And she'll just walk back inside while bickering with the building.
Oh, that's lovely. Oh, that's great. Oh my gosh. Professor is probably having a similar conversation with the ellipsis of why did you put me here? uh, that's fun.
Two dorks talking to their sentient homes.
Yeah. Ah. Thank you.
That was so cute.
Yeah, it was really nice. That they actually kind of hit it off. I wasn't sure if they would.
They actually get along.
Yeah.
That was fun. Thank you so much for playing with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for playing with me. That will do it for us. Thank you for listening, audience, present and future. We will see you next time. For now, we will wish you all a good time zone. Bye-bye.
Cheers and goodbye.